absolute favorite topic because we spend a great deal of time and discourse and publications and podcasts and web series talking to women about how they can have it all. The reason we've never had to talk to men about having it all is because we've been making sure that they can. Why aren't we telling men to facilitate us having it all?
Hi everyone, welcome to today's episode of Mental Health and Motherhood with Boledi. I am joined by an incredible woman. But you know what? I'm going to allow her to introduce herself. But yeah, thank you for joining us and stay with us. You are going to enjoy this conversation. How are you?
I'm good and I'm on to you.
Is it?
I think that the reason you wanted me to introduce myself is because of my surname.
You know what?
I think it's because of my surname.
I'm just like, how do I? Yes.
It's because of the surname.
Sure.
So I'm Sadie Torquato. I'm a creative director for a consumer technology company. I have been in the industry for 10 years. I celebrate my 10th year anniversary of working in digital marketing within the tech space. So it's a really big year for me.
Wow.
And the surname, thank you. And the surname comes from Angola. I used to be Road, very lovely English name. And a year after the Rhodes Must Fall protest, I got married and Rhodes fell. I'm now Torquato.
Sure. You know what? It's so, I went, how do you pronounce this? Tell me. I just want to get to know you, the person, but I also want to get to know you, the mom. You know, this platform is all about just going into the woman's life and just checking how, you know, all the caps that she wears and all the responsibilities that come with motherhood impact her. And obviously there are like very great things that happen when you become a mother. But we tend to also take on a lot that sometimes it's really, you just need to stop and take stock of what's going on, or you can easily lose yourself. So I wanna, before getting into it, I want to ask you, what does womanhood mean to you, and when was a time in your life where you felt like, you know what, I think I'm a woman?
Oh gosh, that's the way you put that now is so beautiful.
Thank you.
I think womanhood is a space that is shared by people. It is a tribe. It's a language. It is a culture. And once you identify it, you can't unsee it. For me, womanhood was when I realized that everything I'm experiencing, there's an entire tribe of people experiencing the same thing as me. I felt that connectedness to women and women of all kinds, you know what I mean? Femme presenting people, trans women, cis women, black women, white women. There is a language we all speak. There is a life we all live. They might be very different sometimes, but there's something that that life gives us that only we understand. And it's a journey that only we walk, but we're in it together.
Sure. That is so powerful. Isn't it crazy how when you are going through it, sometimes it feels like you're going through it alone, but how you speak about, you know, the connectedness, because we are really going through it together. We're just going through it in our own individual lives, but we are all going through something similar.
Yeah, and when I started to identify those stories in other people and those emotions and just the headspace, I realized this is womanhood. It's not an individual journey. We're in it collectively.
Sure, that is so. You said it so beautifully. Take me through your first pregnancy. I like to just really emphasize on that, because it's a time where you didn't know much, and then you're just like, okay, you know, going through all these new things. You don't know what's gonna happen. You know, everything is new. How was your first pregnancy? How did you view motherhood before you went into it? And when you were in it, how was that for you?
So my first pregnancy, was planned but unprepared. I like to tell people there's a difference.
There is.
You know, our eyes were wide open, but we simply were not prepared for the
Yes.
child. And I had just quit my job
Sure.
to go back and complete my studies full time when I
Wow.
found out that I was pregnant.
Wow.
And I can't even tell you, I was a woman possessed. As soon as I saw those two little lines
Sure.
on that stick, clarity was clear to see.
Yeah.
I was, at that moment, became so driven. At that moment, became so determined. And it was this blind determination, because I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
I like that.
I was like, okay,
Blind
well,
determination.
let go, you know?
Yeah.
Let's just do it. We'll see what happens. How bad could it be?
I know,
But
right?
all I knew is that I wanted that child.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I was certain of.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how I was going to finish my studies. My husband, we weren't married at the time. I
Sure.
didn't know when we were going to get married. I don't know where we're going to live. I don't know if I need to work. I don't know how I'm going to make this
Wow.
work. But it has to, because I want it. I was
Yes.
like, nothing means more to me than this.
Yeah.
And I would say, for the most part, my first pregnancy was magical. I went back to, my family supported me, and I went back to varsity full time. I had the support of my in-laws, and you know, everybody huddled around me, and I was able to complete my studies. I always tell people, with my second pregnancy, my son stole my whole brain, because I
Wow.
spoke gibberish, I had memory loss, I was just porridge. But with my daughter, oh my gosh, my
Yes.
first pregnancy, I like unlocked my brain's full potential. I was a
Sure.
genius.
Yes.
I did so well at
Yeah.
varsity. And I carried well. I was so beautiful. I was wearing heels up until my very last day.
Wow.
My hair flourished, my skin flourished. I was so gorgeous. It was a dream pregnancy.
Sure.
But at the time, personal life was a little bit up in the air,
Oh.
because now you know culture, you know, tradition, religion.
Yes.
There's the marriage issue, and there was a lot of pressure on my husband at the time,
Sure, man.
and so and a lot of pressure on me as the daughter, because as a woman, how can you allow this to happen to you?
You know.
Whatever. And I was projecting a lot of that pressure onto my husband.
Oh my gosh.
So we went through a very tough time. My first pregnancy was an absolute joy for me, but it was a very difficult time for him.
Sure.
And then when the baby arrived, it was almost as if all the noise just cut out.
Shut. Yeah.
I was completely tunnel vision, completely focused on this baby. Like, I had a C-section, but you would never say.
Sure.
Because I got back from hospital. I remember when I went to use the loo for the first time after you have the C-section, because they give you a catheter, and when they tell you that when you need to go to the loo, you need to call us for help, because you're not going to be able to walk. You know, you've got your meds that are wearing
Yeah.
off. It's crazy. This woman had found me just as I was, because I had a birthing suite, so I had a private room and
But, yeah.
bathroom. And she found me coming out of the bathroom
my
after having done my business. She's like, Sadie, what are you doing? You weren't supposed to. I'm like, well, I needed to go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I got home and I was washing my daughter's clothes. I was cleaning the house. I was cooking food. You would never say that I got
You know.
sliced open just 3 days prior. So
Wow.
I had that determination and that focus, and I wasn't going to ask anyone for help. And I had all this energy and this spunk, and yeah, I was a woman possessed.
Yeah.
And because of that single-mindedness, that's when my husband and I were finally able to come together and say, okay, now that that's all done,
Yes.
let's get married. And it was, yeah,
Sure.
the rest is history.
Wow. I think, you know what? There's societal pressure to do certain things, but I love the fact that you guys did it when it made
Yeah,
sense for
I mean,
you
look,
guys.
it was causing such unnecessary pressure.
Yeah.
I think the most important thing is to take care of your health and to ensure, you know, a safe delivery of the baby. Focus on one thing at a time, guys.
And I
And
mean,
I say this as a Christian, focus on one thing at a time.
And I think the other thing is babies are very costly. So imagine as a guy you're sitting there worried about, oh my gosh, the hospital bill is,
And we sacrificed a wedding, eh? We didn't have the big
Is it?
white dress and all that kind of stuff.
wow, really?
Yeah,
I can
we didn't
relate.
have all that because it was more important for us to be a family than to have
Yes.
the wedding, at the
Yes.
time. And I think a part of me will always want the big white wedding. And we always talk about doing it, for our 10-year anniversary kind of stuff.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So it is an idea in our mind, but when I think about the time and the money we saved, I think we're in a much better position having not had the wedding. Yeah.
Sure. You see, that's the reality of it, though, that you get to save a lot of money because, sure, weddings can be very expensive.
Yeah, dude, like it's crazy. My sister got married a couple of years
Yes.
after. She got married a year before I had my son, so fairly recently. And just being part of that process, I mean, that's the closest I got to planning a wedding and being part of a wedding. I was like, damn, I was never going to be able to do it. I was never going to be
I
able to
know,
do this.
right?
I only graduated a year after we got married. So you must understand, I wasn't even
You was
working.
gonna
Where
have
was
to
the
take
money going to
care
come
of
from
all the
for a wedding?
funds. Sure.
Please.
I love that. Being realistic, because you can decide to have a wedding any day.
Yeah.
And it's not really the event that makes the marriage.
Look, I'll never discourage anyone who has that dream. I will
Absolutely
never
not.
discourage anyone who has that dream.
Yeah.
However, if you can't have that dream,
Absolutely.
You're still going to be okay.
And I mean, you can still have a small wedding. Other people do small weddings.
Our wedding was very, very small, but it was very
Yeah.
luxurious.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? We had
Yeah.
like this gorgeous 5-course plated dinner, like that MasterChef stuff.
Yeah.
Like, it was very fancy.
Exactly.
At this beautiful boutique hotel. So it was very, very fancy. We didn't, shy away from, costs and stuff like that. But it was a small wedding. It wasn't the dream wedding. Yeah.
Sure. I love that. Just being realistic. And having gone through motherhood, what would you say that you were blindfolded about? What would you say were some of the things that you were like, oh my gosh, how didn't anyone tell me that this is what it entails?
No one told me, and I swear I talk about it every time I get the opportunity. Nobody told me how hard breastfeeding is.
Sure.
Oh my gosh, breastfeeding is hell. It is so hard.
And it becomes a mental game at some point.
It is so emotional. And
Sure.
so I'm married into an Angolan family. So there's this double African culture. We've got the coloureds on the one side, we've got the Angolans on the other side. These are two very strong African cultures.
Yes.
They're very distinct, they're very bold, and this is, you know what I mean? This is
Yeah.
how they do things.
Yeah.
So I've got this double pressure. I swear I had my mother-in-law coming. So how she did with both of my kids. After a long day of being a mom, the last thing I want is my mother-in-law dropping my shirt and just like giving me a good squeeze to see if the milk is coming out. Like, that's crazy.
Just randomly.
I like it. Can you not, that's not going to work.
Oh
I even
my
had a
God.
breastfeeding consultant come in and try and coach me and help me because it just wasn't happening. It was awful. It was very, very bad. And both times that I got pregnant, I always shared pregnancies with other people in my family. So with my daughter, I had her at the same time as my younger brother had his daughter, and my brother's and my husband's older sister had a kid as well. And then when I had my son, my other sister-in-law had a daughter in the same year.
Yeah.
And two of my sisters-in-law on my husband's side, two of his sisters,
Yeah.
also had children. So there's like 4 kids in one year. It's crazy.
Sure.
And then these women are all milking like cows.
Sure.
And I'm there getting squeezed and nothing's coming out.
Sure.
So yeah, the breastfeeding really messed with my self-esteem. It messed with my mental health. It was emotionally exhausting, physically draining. No one prepares you for that.
Sure. I'm sorry about that. And I think, you know what, it's usually just said as though it's a normal thing that's going to happen for everyone.
Yeah.
Not everyone gets to have it easy with just everything.
Yeah.
Every pregnancy is different. Every child is different. Even your body is not at the same, at the same place.
And that's what I always tell people when they ask me, oh, Sadie, what is your number one pregnancy tip when people are getting pregnant around
Yes,
me? They're like,
yes.
okay, Sadie, you 2 kids in the game, you should know what you're talking
Yeah.
about. Give me some advice. My first advice to any new mom is that there is no advice, babes.
Yeah.
Because every pregnancy is different. I can tell
Absolutely.
you what I did, but I cannot advise you. It's not possible.
Yeah, because as well, you might just not be parenting the way I would want to parent, and you might just not be the kind of parent, besides the parenting the kid, you might just not be wanting to do it the way I want to do it.
I mean, if you take my breastfeeding experience, that's awful. That's hell. I
Mm-hmm.
can't help anyone with my experience. I can only tell you how terrible it was.
It was, yeah.
And then with my C-section superwoman tendencies, how can that help anyone? Not
Yeah.
everybody has the same physique. And not everybody has the same medical conditions. I mean, some people have extremely traumatic births.
Absolutely.
Me telling them that I was superwoman busy washing clothes is not going to do anything for them.
I know.
So listen to new moms, listen to moms who've had kids, listen to the stories, but with a pinch of salt because it may not apply.
And a lot of times it doesn't, because when you hear advice and when you go through it, it's a whole different
Whole
thing.
new ball game.
You're
Absolutely.
just like,
yeah.
what is this? Sure, man. So definitely the breastfeeding.
Yeah, I think that was just the most awful thing. It really stood out.
Yeah.
And then when I had my son, I think that was the hardest pregnancy for me,
Is it?
mentally, physically. He was a big boy, and also at the time my daughter was 4 years old.
Sure.
And I've struggled so much, even after the pregnancy, that I remember one night just crying in my husband's arms and telling him that it was the night before he was due to be delivered, because I had another C-section, but elective this time. So I was packing my bag the night before, and I just sat on the bed exhausted, and I told my husband, we're never having another baby.
Sure.
And I still struggle with those feelings today. I mean, I'm only 30,
Yeah.
and I have means I could have another baby. There's nothing. I mean, I had an ectopic pregnancy and I lost a fallopian tube as a result.
I'm sorry
But
about
I can
that.
still make babies. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
absolutely.
So there's nothing stopping me materially, but I still have that mental block. I cannot have another child. That's how
Sure.
difficult that pregnancy was.
Sure. And that's a real thing, hey? Because you go through stuff and you feel like, oh my gosh,
Never again.
never again. Do you think you got traumatized by just the challenges through the pregnancy?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, with my first pregnancy, I was at varsity full time. I didn't have the stress of a job or anything like
Right.
that. I was still living in my mother's house until we got married. So I didn't have to run a household. All I had to
Yes.
do was take care of my baby and study for exams.
Sure.
When I had my son, I had my own home.
Yo.
I had a husband. I had a job. And I had a 4-year-old. Yeah.
I like that you're going into that. The impact of, we talk about having it all, but the impact of having it all on you as a woman, and your mental health more than anything.
I just love that you use those 3 words, having it all. Oh, my favorite topic of girl boss discussions. It's my absolute favorite topic because we spend a great deal of time and discourse and, publications and podcasts and web series talking to women about how they can have it all. The reason we've never had to talk to men about having it all is because we've been making sure that they can. Why aren't we telling men? Why aren't we telling men to facilitate us having it all?
Sure.
That's exactly what it is. I was raised to take care of a household. I was told this is how you cook, this is how you clean, this is how you finance things,
Yes.
this is how you take care of children, this is how you are a wife. I was told to do all those things because, not because it's good life skills, ignoring the wife part for a side now, not because it's life skills, but because I'm going to be a wife.
Yeah.
Not in service of myself,
But
in
for
service
the-
of a potential husband.
Absolutely.
As modern as we are, I mean, I'm only 30. This was stuff I was taught yesterday. I was a teenager yesterday. I was taught these things are things that I need to know in service of someone else. So when you have someone who is running your household, taking care of your children, bringing in extra income, and being a partner to you, you can have it all.
You can.
You absolutely can have it all. That's why men do. That's why it's never a question, how did they do
Sure.
it? Because we do it for them.
Sure. And you know what? I'm glad you dipped in there, because we are a generation that's trying to raise both the girl child and the boy child to be the same. To know that, washing the dishes is, both their responsibility. How are you doing that in your home? Having mentioned that, how are you doing that with because you're raising a boy and a girl, right? What are you doing to ensure that the scales are, I can say the scales are even, they're not,
They're not,
because
yeah.
we are far from from equality, but what are you doing to make sure that you try?
Yeah, so look, my kids are small. So for now, it's my husband and I doing the groundwork, aligning our perspectives and the way we see things. And I think that it's working because my daughter did something incredible the other day.
Yeah.
Tiago had soiled himself. And I was I think I was in my bedroom. I don't know if I was just chilling or if I was in the bathroom. But I was the only parent at home. My husband had gone to gym. And she came to find me. Or first I heard her calling, Papa, Papa, Papa. And then she came to find me. And I'm like, she's like, Mama, where's Papa? So I'm like, I don't know. I think he went to gym, my angel.
Yeah.
And she goes, I'm like, what's wrong? What do you need him for? I'm thinking if you're looking specifically for Papa, it must be something that Papa does.
Yeah.
She goes, no, Tiago messed himself, so Papa needs to come change him. So for me, that was brilliant because children normally default to Mama.
To
So I was
Mama
like,
for
okay, I must be doing
such.
something.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
great, hey?
But a lot of it is just me and Shulson building our ethical framework, building our moral framework. One thing that people... a mistake that I think people make when they become married or they become coupled and they enter parenthood is that they think that they're perfectly aligned.
Sure.
You think that you're perfectly aligned.
Sure.
I'm here to tell you that when you are married or partnered for life, you are going to meet many people within your partner. Within the 10 years that I've been with Jolson, I have met so many different versions of him. And they've all added drama and romance and spice to my life.
Yes.
And one of these people that I've met in my husband is the dad, Jolson.
Sure.
Who he is as a father. He's also discovering him. He's new to us. He's new to us both.
Yeah.
And just in the way we tackle things on a case-by-case basis, we're building that relationship between the parent in me and the parent in him.
Wow.
Because those are strangers.
Yes.
If I don't know her completely yet, I'm still getting to know her, how is he
can
supposed
the
to know
other
her?
person, yeah.
So it's a relationship within your relationship. Just because you guys were
Sure.
madly in love doesn't mean your values are aligned as parents. Your values might be aligned as partners. Your values might be aligned in terms of how you see finances, how you see religion. But parenting?
It's and you know what? As you are mentioning that, the other day I was thinking, when my kids grow up and they start dating and they were like, okay, we're thinking of getting married. I think we've gone past, the days where you ask about how much money a person has. Ask about how a person was raised, their upbringing. Ask about what your values are. What kind of a parent do you want to be? Because most of the time, like you are saying, that's a stranger. You meet the lover, you don't meet the parent.
Correct.
And then you meet the parent when the child is already here. And then what happens in instances where you feel like, okay,
There's misalignment.
sure,
Yeah.
So I like that. And I think it also allows us to give each other some grace,
Correct.
because just like you're saying, just because we were madly in
Yeah.
love doesn't mean the parents and us know each other.
Yeah. A lot of people on the outside of these relationships hear about the work that goes into it. And it's kind of off-putting because they think that the work
Yeah.
is, oh no, someone cheated and now this person's forgiving. That's the only sense
Yes.
of work that they have, the constant forgiveness.
Sure.
But the work is actually getting to know each other over and over and over again and trying to align every single day. There have been times where we disagree. My husband is very He's a very firm parent. I always say he's like the African mom. And I'm
Oh my
like the
gosh.
cool,
Yes.
liberal,
Yeah.
soft
I
parent.
think I can relate. Yeah.
And
to a
he,
certain
he
extent.
like literally, even the things that he says, it's hilarious. We were all chilling on the couch one day. It was a Saturday. I mean, the
Yeah.
weather was gloomy, so we were like, okay, popcorn it is. We're on the couch, we're chilling, and he decided, okay, I'm going to gym. So I'm like, okay, go have your time, go to gym. We'll be over here. So when he came back, the place looked like it
Yeah.
looked.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
I
saying?
get you.
But I'm not pausing this movie. It's freaking rocking right now. I love my kids' movies. So I'm watching this movie. My kids are relaxing. We're watching this movie. And then here comes African Mama.
Sure.
Look at this place. And he says to me, he says to Talia now that she must clean. She's the
Yes.
oldest, she's the child. I mean, Tiago is not at the age where he can understand those things yet, so
Yeah.
he'll always go for Talia first. And it's just
Yeah.
it's the curse of the firstborn daughter.
Sure.
Girl, that's another conversation, another
Sure.
podcast. So he says to her, what will people say if they come in here? So I looked at this man, I'm like, okay, we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
So then I went and I caught him alone and I said, babe, that is not a good reason to teach someone to clean their house.
Yeah.
It's not about other people.
Yes.
It's about taking care of your space. There has
For
to,
yourself.
You know what I mean? We have to
Yeah.
give our kids lessons that are not central, that aren't centralized around us.
Yes.
Because when you're 18, 19 years old, I want my kids to say, I'm not going to make this decision. I'm not going to engage in this because it's not the right thing to do.
Yes.
I don't want them to say, I'm not engaging in this because of my mom. That's not a functional adult.
Yes.
So it's that way we balance each other. And then one day where he sort of got me was when I was we were having a moment where I was, overwhelmed. The kids were being the kids.
Yeah.
And because I'm the soft parent,
Yes.
I had no idea what to do. And then Jolson came in, African mom, and he sorted everything out.
Yeah.
And then he said to me that I need to start being on his side more
Yeah.
because I am stealing moments from him
Sure.
that he could be giving the children joy.
Sure.
Because the imbalance is if things continue the way they continue, the children will not find joy in his parenting. They will find joy with me only.
Yes. I
So
get
we keep
that.
checking each other. We have to keep checking each other, and that's
Yeah.
the work that we talk about in
Sure.
marriage.
Sure, that is so profound. And as you are saying that, I can relate because my husband is almost the same. He's very like strict, but you know what? Over the years, because we've been together for 10 years as well, and married 7. He's
Same.
really. Oh my
When is your
gosh.
anniversary?
On the 10th of March.
Oh, we are in May. Okay,
Wow.
so congrats.
Oh,
That's
well,
a big
congrats
deal.
as well. It is. 10 years
Yeah,
is a
it's a
long
big
time
deal.
to know one person and to just be here and
Yeah.
be like,
Yeah.
I still choose you.
Every day for 10 years.
Yeah, so there are moments like that. And you know what? As the liberal parent, sometimes you can try to be way too liberal. And I can get what your husband is saying about make sure there's balance. Because one thing about kids as well, they're very smart.
Oh, yes.
And they know that
Oh, yes.
mommy is very liberal.
Yep.
And sometimes we can get away with things.
Yep.
So that's something that I'm learning as well. I'm learning that, you know what? Sometimes I'm just going to let the situation be. I'm going to let him handle it. And you're right. When we talk about work in marriage and in parenthood, people think, no, there's just
It's betrayal
yo,
and it's
and
this
just
and this and
hectic
this.
things. But it's the small things, things like that. Because think about it. These things can break families apart. If we don't communicate, if we don't try and find a balance, if we don't work things out, we can get to a point where we feel like, I don't know you, you don't know me, and everyone is just on defense mode, and
Yeah.
before we know it, we are strangers.
Yeah, we absolutely have to find ways to work together. And I find it so funny that we're able to do this in so many other facets of our lives, but we struggle so
Right.
much to do it in marriage. I mean, if I'm having
Right.
issues at work with my team, I'm going
Yes.
to find a way to make it work. I'm not going to just leave them in a lurch because we have a collective goal. In marriage, we have to remember we have a collective goal.
Absolutely.
Whenever my husband and I find ourselves, it's called the 1 degree theory.
Yes.
Whenever we find ourselves just diverging slightly, you have to nip it in the bud. Because if you think
Yes.
about an origin spot,
Yeah.
if you're off by only 1 degree and you keep moving forward in that degree, you keep getting further and further apart. So that 1 degree theory really governs us a lot. Whenever we find ourselves
I
drifting,
love that.
by just 1 degree, nip it.
Sure, that is very important, hey. And I'm glad you brought that up because, like I'm saying, you can literally get to a point where the marriage doesn't work out and you go your separate ways because you felt like just your two parenting styles were not working.
Yeah.
And that's not something that when you get married you get advised on. They're like, yeah, guys, please check your parenting styles and
Yeah,
You
they
know?
always make it about like finances and like love languages. And
Yeah.
those stuff are, it's very important. But I think there's definitely a parenting component, you know,
Yes.
that needs to come, especially like in, you know, heterosexual married couples. The kids are gonna come. You know what I mean? The kids are gonna come at some
Exactly,
point.
exactly.
You know, of course there are couples who choose not to, but I think there should be a little bit of a component for people who are interested in parenting.
Sure. What have been some of the most challenging things about motherhood?
Oh, yeah. Okay, so like all of it. I think that the most challenging thing is discovering that as a mother you're the primary parent. I think that was the most challenging discovery for me, and that's also why my philosophy on having it all, the onus is on the men, on the husbands, on the partners to ensure that we have it all.
Absolutely. And they can do that. It's
And that
absolutely
it's
possible.
absolutely within their power. So just discovering that I'm the primary parent was very overwhelming. Although my husband is super hands-on, I mean, he is the kind of man I can leave him for a weekend and just, you know what I mean? I know my
Yeah.
children, he's going to know how to feed them, he's going to know how to dress them, he's going to know, you know, I don't have to worry. You know, because of like the way patriarchy has shaped marriages,
Yeah.
it's actually rare, you know?
Yes.
But I don't have that kind of husband. He's completely hands-on. This is dad. And even though he's like that, I am still the primary parent.
It's crazy how much I can relate
It's like
as well. Yeah.
literally like I was so blown away when Talia came to me and told me that she insists that her father changes the nappy.
Yeah.
It blew me away.
Yeah.
Because these children will find me on the other side of the house, doesn't matter what I'm doing. They will walk past their father.
And find you.
It's me, yeah. So just being the primary parent, no matter how hands-on my partner is, I'm still the primary parent, and that's very, very overwhelming for me. It's also one of the reasons my second pregnancy was so traumatic, because I had a 4-year-old.
Sure.
You know, that is still an age where she needs a lot of
Absolutely.
attention and
Absolutely.
physical attention. She needs intimacy. She needs you to be with her. And I was her primary parent. She chose me, she clung to me.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Even now, that's my bestie. Like her and I, she's always by my side. And physically it took its toll on me.
Sure.
Mentally, I built up resentment for my partner because of that.
Sure.
It's literally no one's fault. I'm the mom. But just because I was the primary parent, it really took its toll. It was so overwhelming.
Sure.
Fortunately, my husband and I did get through it because he was on the outside of what was happening between my daughter and I. There was a time where he let me down because he couldn't tell that there was anything wrong, right?
Yes.
Because, of course, I'm doing everything myself, you know, robot mode, super mom, super woman. He couldn't tell that things were not.
And sometimes we also don't
And
communicate.
we don't want to say it.
Yeah.
We don't want to say it
I'm
'cause-
just here hoping you read my mind.
Because why can't you,
Sure,
right?
man.
So he didn't know. He thought everything was normal. So that
Sure.
night when I broke down and I said, I cannot have another baby, I will never have another baby, it caught him by complete and utter surprise. He had no idea that this was happening. Why? I'm the primary parent, I got this. So in order for you to have an attentive partner who can help you shoulder that burn, open your mouth, please. I'm begging you.
And communicate.
Please.
And you know what? Unmet, uncommunicated expectations, they had
Babes,
so much.
the way you can
But-
hurt
but-
yourself with that thing, eh?
But they're uncommunicated.
Exactly.
You know?
You have to take accountability for that.
Absolutely.
You didn't open your mouth. So what do you
Absolutely.
think this man is going to do?
Absolutely. Sure. I appreciate you sharing that and just being open about that. How did you get through the resentment? Did the communication help you, get into a place where you felt like, okay, I see you trying, I see you?
Well, we reached breaking point. There was a time after my son was born where the marriage seemed beyond repair. It really got us to our lowest point yet. And when he realized that I had withdrawn from him, because that's very odd for me, like I'm not that person. But when he realized that I had changed towards him, he panicked. And he became very, very sort of desperate to fix things, and that gave me, reassurance.
The assurance, yeah.
But the work, we're still doing the work.
Absolutely.
When you say that you trust someone and you forgive them, you have to work on that.
Absolutely.
All that person can do is not make the same mistake again.
Yeah.
All that person can do is try and make you feel better.
Absolutely.
That's their work. Your work is to now give the trust, and not just say you trust.
Yeah.
Give the trust. Give the trust.
Mm-hmm.
Trust is an action. It's
Yeah.
not something that's just going to magically, take
happen.
over
Yeah.
one night like some mist from heaven. You have to give trust. You have to practice trust. Give them opportunities to show you that you trust, that you now trust them. That's how you move on. When you forgive, understand that's your assignment.
Sure. And that's something that's difficult to do, because often we say we forgive, but you're holding on to it just in
Yes.
case.
And then you
know?
get triggered.
And then you get triggered, and sure.
Yeah. And here's this man trying his best, didn't realize what he did wrong, because he's been holding down his part of the
Yeah.
bargain.
Yeah.
He's been, trying to do what he needs to do. And I've just not come to the party with that element of now giving you that trust.
Sure.
Marriages have to be a safe space.
They
They absolutely
absolutely
have to be a safe space. Otherwise, you can't practice that trust.
Sure. I appreciate you sharing this, because a lot of times women go through these things, but they go through them in silence. You go through the resentment. It gets worse because you're going through it by yourself and all of that. So I'm so glad that
Yeah.
you shared that. What are some of the things that you love and you enjoy about motherhood?
Oh my gosh, I am so obsessed with those children. They are so gorgeous, and
They are so beautiful.
I'm so, motherhood is an all-consuming journey.
It is.
A lot of people don't like to tie their identities to motherhood, and I perfectly understand that, because you have to
Yes.
keep something for yourself, right?
Absolutely.
Not me. I tie myself to motherhood. I'm so fulfilled by it.
Yes.
And I think it's because I find I see my children as whole people. Having children is not rearing babies or
Yes.
taking care of kids. You're forming adults, right? That's what parenting is.
Absolutely.
Because you're only going to rear an infant for a year.
Yeah.
You're only going to babysit a toddler
Yeah.
for a good
A
couple years
few
after
years,
that.
yeah.
And then you're going to check homework for maybe 10 years after that. After that,
It's done.
you know what I'm saying? So you start creating the adult from the moment that they're born.
Absolutely. I love that view of it.
Yeah, you're creating an adult.
Yeah.
So in my mind, these are human beings with their own values,
Sure.
with their own agency, with their own ideas, with their own identity, and then I will guide them through
Sure.
life. So I love getting to know my children on that level.
Sure.
They're their own people. There are things about them
Yeah.
that I can say, that's not me. Like, that is
Right?
not me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Especially
Yeah.
my son, because he's so crazy. It's not me and it's not my husband.
Yeah. It's usually the girl that's, that you feel like, oh my gosh, what a colorful personality.
Yeah, no, she absolutely has one. They're
Yeah.
colorful in their own ways, for
Yeah.
sure. But I think I probably can explain my daughter a little bit more than I can explain my son. He's such a hooligan. I love it. But they really are their own people. And I
Yeah.
love being able to witness their lives, to participate in their lives, and, just be a part of their individual growth, because they are their
Sure.
own people.
I love that, because what that does is you don't think you own them. You understand that your part in their journey is the nurturing. And therefore, you're going to try and be as gentle as you can be.
Yeah.
You're going to try and be cognizant of what you do and what you don't do. Because I think, a big part of gentle parenting is understanding that these are not your people. They might come through us, but they are not ours. And I think that's how we can just get to raise a better generation,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Another thing that my children have, the value that they've added to my life, I must say, and this is a bit of a plot twist because
Yeah.
a lot of people don't see it this way, but they've added romance to my life.
Sure.
My kids have helped me spice up my love life in such an incredible way.
Wow.
Because my husband and I literally, we are robbed of a lot of quality time. Robbed of it.
Yes.
These things are in our bed and they are all over the place, and they take
Just
up
as you say, quality time, Ash, they are in.
you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
we don't get a lot of it. So the quality time that we do get,
Yo, you maximize it to listen.
it shakes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The quality time we do
I get
get
you.
is
I
so
get you.
deep, and it's so special. And like I said, getting to know the new person in my marriage,
Yeah.
Dad Jolson and Mom
Sure.
Sadie. I like that guy. He's sexy. I like his mind.
Yeah.
I like his humor.
Yeah.
It's
Sure.
exciting to me. Every
Yeah.
time my husband and I pass through another phase of life and we meet each other again for the first time, it's so sexy to me. It's so
Absolutely.
fiery. It's so passionate.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So having kids spice things up,
It does.
contrary to
actually.
popular belief.
It does, because if you have all the time in the world, you can take it for granted.
Exactly, right?
Yeah, but if you know that
Absolutely, yeah.
there's a cap to this thing,
Right? It's like
yeah.
it's like we're teenagers. Like the kids are gonna
yes,
wake up.
absolutely. Like, just do the best you
And
can.
I enjoy it. We have to
Yeah.
remember to play and we have to remember to laugh.
Absolutely.
And really, those kids give us so many reasons to laugh.
Sure. What do you hope to instill in your kids?
Above all,
Yeah.
kindness.
Sure.
Above all, kindness. I know
Yeah.
that my husband wants my kids to own Fortune 500 companies. But my favorite thing about him is that there's not a single person who's ever met my husband who has a negative thing to say about him at all.
Sure.
And because of that, he's been able to be successful not only in his personal life, but everything follows. Professional
Sure.
life, his life in the church, everything follows.
Sure.
And I want that for my children. I see that in him, and I want it for him, for them as well.
Sure. That's a big one. And I think if you are kind, you're gonna be gracious. You're gonna be considerate.
And
You're gonna be
and
all these
you're going to be
things.
kind and considerate and gracious to yourself.
As well.
Because you will understand that kindness is not just something you give to other people. You
You
give it
can't
to
give
yourself
what you
as
don't
well.
have, yeah.
And you know how important that is in little girls, especially
Yeah.
black girls.
Yeah.
I mean, Talia needs to appreciate her hair. She needs to appreciate her brown skin. She needs to appreciate her strange surname and her culture.
Sure.
And in boys, he needs to be able to appreciate his impact on the world and
Yeah.
his strength and his and take care of his ego and
Yeah.
understand not to do harm. Kindness will benefit boys and girls in unique ways and impactful ways.
Absolutely. Sure. That is just, there's no coming back from that. Thank you so much for coming through. I learned so much.
Oh, thank you.
And I love how you do motherhood. And I think because I can relate a lot, I'm amazed. And you're doing great.
Thank you. Thank you.
You are
and you're doing great
great.
too. And we need to keep telling ourselves this, okay? We are doing amazing, sweetie.
Absolutely.
We are doing amazing.
Sure. Because if you don't, who's going to do it for you? Right? Sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. And congratulations on your platform.
Thank you.
It's really amazing what you're doing here.
Thank you so much.